When might family members come in contact with you and regarding what kinds of issues? How can they take advantage of your knowledge and skills?
I mentioned before that infant transitions, that's probably one of the first places when a child moves into the district or into the SELPA in our case, any of the districts in our SELPA. We're often involved at that level because we have good rapport with the regional center, and we work collaboratively with them, so they'll say, they'll let us know about a certain student that's coming in, and maybe they'll let us know that the family is very nervous about this transition. Could we get in touch with them? We often do. We certainly go to the 33-month transition meetings, and that's a chance for us to actually sit in the home, meet the student, see the family. That's one of the first places. The second place might be a student who's transitioning from another district or a SELPA or another state. Oftentimes we'll get a call from families moving to the area saying, I'm moving to the Roseville area. What are the programs like in that area? And we'll talk with them at that point about the types of programs that they have, how services are delivered, just maybe easing their concerns a bit about that. So there's another way. We also sometimes get referrals from the support agencies. The Developmental Disabilities Area Board contacts us sometimes and will say, I got a call from Mrs. Jones. She's having a concern with her district. Could you give her a call? And then we'll pick that up. Or the Family Resource Center, the Warm Line up here, we'll get a call from them. We often refer families to those agencies too for family support. So we'll go both ways on that. In a district where maybe a school district is saying, I have some concerns about this child, could you come in and see the child? And all of our program specialists have certain expertise. So for example, one of our program specialists is an AT specialist, and so we may say, Jill, would you go in and observe this child and give us some read on what's happening in terms of their assistive technology or their augmented communication system? Or another person is a behavioral specialist. We might have that person do that observation and give input to the team that's serving that child. Sometimes we'll also be asked by a family to take a look and see what's happening and give them some feedback. We might be involved in escorting a family to another program to visit. So, Loomis District has a family that wants to observe some of the programs the county operates, and we may be involved in touring that family to the county programs. So that's how we get involved early on with families. And the SELPA office, of course, is on the website. We also give information through all the districts about contacting the SELPA. And when a family contacts us, we have a certain program specialist assigned to that district, and that person will get back to that family right away and find out how they can be supportive.
What are some ways that educators and therapists can take advantage of your knowledge and skills?
We get calls from other program specialists in the bigger districts. We get calls from directors of special ed in bigger districts. Sometimes the teachers or the speech therapists or psychologists call us when they have a need for another point of view. One thing I did mention is that the SELPA provides a lot of training. We have training all the time, and we do surveys of the districts to find out what their needs are. We establish a basic number of needs from the districts, and then we set throughout the course of the year a number of in-services for that. So for example, positive behavior change is very important up here. So we do a lot of training for school site teams, individuals. We do training on autism, a ton of training on assistive technology, because that comes out in our needs assessment up here. So districts contact us sometimes, and we will be able to go into their district and do just training just for their district on a specific topic. So we find the trainers, we do a lot of training ourselves, we organize the training around their schedule, we do training for large groups up here, and then we go into individual districts and do training. I think another way is that the idea of having another set of eyes is real important. If you have a good working relationship with the district and the district professionals, which we do, they're likely to call you in to take a look at what's happening with the student or how our team is operating, and we can give feedback to them about that. And again, we have a luxury of being independent or neutral, so our feedback tends to be better received than an evaluative type of feedback. So that's another way they use us. I think even a bigger way is finding resources. We have single school districts in our SELPA. We have multi-school districts. The single school districts sometimes don't have the personnel involved to find resources. So even California Deafblind Services, a small district in our SELPA may not have ever heard of CPBS, or even the services that the county office provides. So they'll say, I've got a student, I'm not sure we're meeting his needs, and we can say, oh, well, let me put you in touch with or contact somebody we know that has these resources. So we get involved a lot of times in finding resources. Sometimes they're family support resources, like the Family Resource Center, or the Regional Center sometimes, or the Area Board. Sometimes it's an agency like CBBS that would be specific expertise that they may not have even known existed to come in. I think it's interesting to us that we talk about CDBS and people are wondering about the cost. And we always can say, well, there really is no cost. And they have people who do this, and they'll actually come to your site and work with your team. And so that's the type of thing I think is most valuable for people, is finding resources. And the other part is, I mentioned non-public agencies and non-public schools. Sometimes a district has to look outside of their own district, other districts, the county office, to something else. And we visit those schools. We actually have started up here doing, they're not evaluations, but they're a survey of the school using a certain tool we have to see what's in place. And then we meet with the directors of the school, we meet with the staff, and then we can go back and talk to our own SELPA staff about what's available out there. And so we do that as a service, I think, too, to districts.
Do your services vary depending upon the particular age of the student, and if so, how?
Yes and no. Yes, in that there are different things we will be involved in at different ages. I mentioned early childhood. That's a different role. That's like smoothing the transition of a child into the public school system, which is hard for a lot of families because they're used to a very different system before 3 years old. And it's a system that's built around family support. And then suddenly it's the 3-year-old time when it's actually built around specifically student support and what was going to work for the student, and looking at options that currently exist in that district first and building a program from those. So that's a very different transition. And our role, I think, is more supportive. It's more like informing, letting families know what happens when you hit 3, what special ed law is about, what the due process procedures are about, or just procedural safeguards are about at 3 years old, and how the school system operates. As kids get older, our role it's sometimes more involved in, is the program appropriate? Is it working for the child? Sometimes it's finding resources when the program is not working, or in cases, some cases, not frequent, but certain cases, getting involved because the relationship between the school and the family is not working. And there may be some mistrust building. And so our involvement then is to try to help resolve that in a way that meets the needs of the child primarily, but also builds a rapport again and a trust relationship between the district and the family again, so that it can continue on. And there are times we're involved with that kind of resolution year after year. We're invited back because the meeting went well last time when we were involved in it. And then at high school, we may get more involved in agency. I will say, up here, the districts are doing a great job at that. They have good staff that are working well with agencies, know how that operates, but sometimes they do invite us in to be part of that, just in terms of making the transition happen. So it varies a little bit with ages, but overall the job is really to ensure that there's a full educational continuum for all the kids in our SELPA. That's really the job of the program specialist ultimately.